Welcome, Tatiana. Oh, it's so amazing to have you here. I've been looking forward to this last week, and definitely it's been the highlight of today. So this is a special edition that the two of us having an audacious conversation. And as you know, I set out this whole project, this audacious project, a few weeks ago, actually, with the intention to explore this concept of audacity. And my definition is courage, care, and non-conformity. And you and I obviously are members and partners in Adapter, and I think of you as a phenomenal, incredible storyteller. So I'd love to explore some storytelling with you.
No pressure then. So exciting to be here with you, Alina. Obviously, you played such a crucial role in my life, and we have been together on this journey for definitely over 20 years in a different roles, right? In a different capacity. And I do remember always around 20 years ago, after some event in financial services where we both were working, we were grabbing the taxi together, and we ended up in the same taxi. And I remember I was so curious about you, and it was probably 15 minutes taxi ride. And I kept on asking you questions. I don't know, talking about intensity. And I thought to myself, I really like that lady. And also, do you know what, Alina, I find, even though at that time I was so much in my head, we speak a lot about connecting to our heart and our intuition. And I was very much in my head, and still I remember from my life, those moments of intuition. And that was that moment. That's why that taxi ride kind of imprinted in my head and in my heart, because I did have intuition that there is something more to this relationship.
That's a lovely story, Tatiana. It's not, you remember that a lot more intensely than I have. And of course, we've been sort of together for 20 years or so. And, now I say there is no coincidence. Everything happens through people. Everything is serendipitous. And you're right. We met then and we met again, and we worked together for a long time when we were in the financial services industries. I was at Rothschild, you were at Nomura last, obviously a few, BNP before, and we really connected throughout that time. And can you remember any stories from that time?
Well, I remember
audacious. Actually, that will
definitely
the theme for today. So let's actually sort of think about audacious stories. And again, I know I haven't said that the intention is to have fun and excitement. And when I had the conversation with James and with Rita and Richard last week, the whole idea is that to come without a script, really, and that's audacious. So we can immerse and we can flow with the conversation. We'll see who's joining us. Hopefully, if you are joining us, please do say hello wherever you are in the world. It would be lovely to see who's here, and then we can stop if there is anybody who wants to ask any questions of us at any point, of course. But I'll come back to you. Any audacious story from those moments, from those times?
Well, I believe, Alina, you do embody audacity. That's for sure. For me, the story how you left the city. You were my client. Client of many people, but for me, you were an important client running a trading desk at Rothschild while I was in charge of loan sales at Nomura. And I was at that time at the stage where I probably lost this adrenaline that I had before from closing transaction, and lost this excitement. And yet I was so grateful for what I had that there was a little bit this other side to the gratitude. That was a gratitude that held me back. I separate the definition of two gratitudes, the expansive one, which is so important to practice, and the one that comes more from fear of losing something. So I was in that stage and I was desperately trying to ignore it. And then I remember receiving a phone call from you when you said that, do you know what, Tatiana, I'm leaving city. And I thought, oh my gosh. I just still remember that sensation. I was in shock because I knew you were a single mom who had two children at home. I was like, is it even possible? What is going to happen? And that was for me so audacious. And you told me about your intention of starting the business, and I thought, wow, that's really audacious. I definitely came home and told the story, my family, to my husband. And actually that's really inspired me. It's inspired me to do something differently as well. So that your courage, your audacity inspired me to step into my own courage, into my own audacity. So yes, thank you, Alina. I'm grateful for that.
Well, thank you, Tatiana. There are two things actually that came up as you were telling that story, because you know, I had the same sensation, and it's warmed my heart to know that, you know, obviously you were inspired by that audacious moment. But I always say that Dan, my son, was the catalyst for change for me, and you know my story. But my own coach John was the inspiration, because, you know, for all of us to have a courageous action, you do need to, or at least I do, need to be inspired by someone else who's done it before me. You know, to believe that it's possible because someone else did it before I did. So thank you. And what you reminded, you helped me a lot in redefining, well, gratitude. So my last chapter of the book, my book, The Audacity Spectrum, that's coming out in August, you know, where I'm redefining audacity, it's called appreciation. And in every chapter, I explain the too much and the too little of this one call it Maslow principle. And I couldn't think of, can anybody have too much gratitude? Gratitude is a really important principle in my life. And I couldn't think of, surely there cannot be a negative side to gratitude, until I heard your story, that you can be grateful, coming out of fear and not really moving into action. That yes, we can be grateful to have, you know, a piece of bread when someone else doesn't have any. But it's okay to say, well, maybe I could put some jam if I can, and move on to the next level. So thank you for that sort of me redefining and going from, you and I all sometimes play with the toxic positivity, and finding the dark side of everything, really.
Yeah, and that's also about toxic intensity as well, because, you know, you were, or you have always been, a person who audaciously challenges me, and I challenge you back. So while we have a lot of love for each other, it's great to have someone with whom one can have audacious conversation and be okay with the differences, right? And you were that person that highlighted to me also about the intensity sometimes, and that intensity helped me to reflect when it's actually healthy and when it's actually leads to creation, or when it's potentially toxic. And you know, and I remember you were my client, right, in the city, and oh my gosh, if I wanted to get a trade done, I would just reach to you in whatever ways I can, right? And challenge you to close the trade, right? And sometimes it's, of course, when is it in a healthy place, and when it is goes into toxic place, you know, almost like in a tunnel vision.
Yeah, and I always admired, you know, that about you. Actually, you know, your ability to not actually accepting the no first time, and always finding ways of challenging the no's, you know, until you find a different perspective that people can take. So that's quite a superpower of yours. And talking about that, you reminded me of the story. Of course, when I left the city, I made that audacious decision that I'm going to try and do something else. And I gave myself 2 years. But I reached out to you and I said, Tatiana, would you like to be my guinea pig? Because I needed 6 clients in order to do the whole accreditation. And that took our relationship to another level altogether.
Yes, exactly. I very clearly remember that. And at that time, I was still trying to stay in my head while my heart was whispering different messages. And I remember I was really challenging you as a client on all aspects. And actually, that's right now is such a reminder for me when I work with my own clients to realize where a person is. Because having experienced it yourself, when being under a lot of pressure, in work and being used to operating only from the place of the head, of the brain, and being in this place where thinking, well, what does this other person, this coach, knows about my life? How can they support? How can they really support me? They don't really understand the situation I'm in. And actually being on this other side and being able to challenge you so directly helps me right now to support my clients to move forward.
Yeah, you were definitely a difficult client. That's why I loved you. Actually, because it's when someone is so much in their head to be able to just access, go further down, which is what we do today. The 2 of us, the 4 of us at Adapter, so beautifully, actually, not just helping our clients to not only use their brain, which they've known how to, very well for such a long time, but really have access to their hearts, really have access to their guts, and all of those other forms of intelligence, which are so important.
Exactly. And for me, healthy intensity, for example, is about this balance of being in balance of thinking, feeling, being, and action. And it actually takes real audacity to step into that place because often it's unknown. Often it means it requires to slow down. And when we are in the middle of very important transaction, how would one slow down? Or in the middle of important project, right? And actually realizing that this slowing down can take a couple minutes. And it could change everything because it helps us to get more in balance.
And I have to acknowledge you for doing that beautifully last week, actually, because that's what you did. That's what you did for me. So you and I had this, fantastic workshop for a private equity firm last week for, almost 100 women, senior women. And it was that moment that you said to me on stage, that we're both on stage, and you said, Alina, you need to slow down. And that was quite a defining moment, because I can be very much in action, and I can be. And we had this moment, interestingly, I think we connected with the audience because the slides didn't work, that for some reason, and I put so much love and so much effort into those slides. And so I was actually quite attached to that particular, it was the one of the EQ fun questionnaires. So I couldn't, because the slide just for some reason didn't work. There was a technical problem with that particular slide, and that's the moment when you said, just let's have fun, and we did. And there was a good reminder. So thank you.
And that's exactly right, Alina, because life goes in unexpected ways, right? And it's so tempting to react to those situations, right? So because, oh my gosh, I had that plan. And I know how those slides, how important they are for you. And also I know from myself, like it's so easy to get attached to own view how something in life, how something in a particular event is meant to go, to create expectations, right? expectations of the event, and also expectations of what another person might do or don't do. And actually, this over attachment and those very strong expectations, that's what can take us out of the present moment, and doesn't let us respond with all the resources that we have. And those resources actually goes beyond our brain, right? Because brain is wired for survival. Well, part of the brain, of course, prefrontal cortex is totally different animal kind of. But a
Yes.
lizard brain is definitely wired for survival, right? And our lizard brain that responds straight away or reacts straight away cannot differentiate whether it's a tiger running after us and trying to eat us, or kick us, or somebody trying to kick us out of the tribe, or are those the slides that are not working. So yeah, and I guess my invitation to slow down was because I so often need to hear it myself.
Yes, and actually, it is that counterintuitive truth is when we, and for me, certainly, as I'm very much driven by action, I'm led by action before anything else, is to remind myself that, to detach, that sort of adaptability. Again, that's sort of another chapter for me, is that ability to let go, which is audacious, to let go of the expectation, let go of the outcome, just let it be, or let be rather than even let go. And then just enjoy the journey rather than just getting attached to that destination.
Exactly. And because in that moment of letting it go, we can observe of what's happening in the room. And is in that situation last week, that's in the moment where people can relate to us in the most powerful way, right? Because everyone experiences in life the situation where things don't go completely their way. And that's when, you said yourself after that event that it's actually exactly was the moment where we connected with the energy of people there.
Totally. I mean, that's what I believe, because obviously then we fixed it. We had a breakout room. Everything became beautiful back again. But it's that moment of vulnerability. And I always say, obviously, I keep saying Brené Brown redefined vulnerability, and I want to redefine Audacity. But it is that moment of, it's how we respond rather than react, which really just tells everybody around us. It gives them a signal of how they can connect with us. And it is our response rather than our reaction. And I'm just going to acknowledge, it's so beautiful to see you, Sylvia, and Cora, of course. There's sort of, big advocates and part of Adapter. So thank you for being here. If there is any question that emerges, I know that I've got some issues sometimes with LinkedIn where I don't see all of the chats as they come in. I sometimes see them later, but would be fantastic if you have any questions, throw them our way, and then let's see what we can do. And Tatiana, so what else is coming up for you, I suppose, in that context of audacity and intensity?
Well, that's both of those concepts, audacity and intensity, bring with themselves a lot of energy. So for me, intensity is definitely about a certain energetic presence, and where and how do we direct this energy, so direct, for me, embracing that energy and directing it with awareness, so going into this audacious action, or actually staying audaciously still. That's what it is about, healthy intensity. And also it is about being able to face our humanity, because so often, whether it is some slides not showing up, or whether we feel, for example, difference of opinions with a loved one or with a colleague, it can feel uncomfortable to go into the conversation. And so often we might avoid the conversation. And that's what actually takes both audacity and healthy intensity, how to approach it with curiosity and actually with the ability to see the perspective of another. And that requires slowing down.
Yes. And you're absolutely right. It is the curiosity to really try to see the other perspective when it's not obvious to us in the moment, and
Yeah,
stay in that energy.
exactly. And I'm kind of like wondering, how has it changed for us from the from the time when we were together in the financial services, where we are now? Do you know, like, what how have you observed differently, for example, even my energetic presence of intensity from then to now? What do you think is different?
Well, I think it's this ability, as I said, it is the energetic field, as I can call it, to take that moment to respond rather than react, in which we, talk about in our workshops, in our programs, is that definition of, Viktor Frankl in his book, In Search of Meaning, is, it is the space that we put between the reaction and the response, really. And it's a one breath away, as we say.
Exactly, exactly. It's basically between the stimulus and response, there is a
Response,
space.
exactly.
And that's exactly that space that gives us freedom. And I know, like this breath, that's such a simple concept, right? The ability to focus on our breath. Breath is available to all of us, and yet when we are in reaction, so often we forget to breathe. And for me, that concept of actually that anxiety and excitement from point of view of neuroscience, from hormonal point of view, is actually very similar. And there is a breath between anxiety and excitement. And I know you're a queen of reframing. So, and the practical tool of that is actually a breath, right? And isn't it fascinating? That's what I find so fascinating. So you're a queen of reframing. So you know how to turn any situation and see silver lining in it. And yet you get so often too fast into action.
Yes.
I might be forgetting to breathe, right? So there is always different sides to us.
Yes, and it's remembering and actually answering your question. I think, that's what I've observed. And of course, I think we both learned through a lot of internal work, a lot of self-development, a lot of work with, with various coaches, and over the last few years, to really have this moment of space. For me, that's been the biggest challenge. Probably the most audacious thing for me is to stay spacious and not go fast, as you said, because I lead with action. So I can be faster than anyone. I always joke that I used to be a sprinter. Literally, I qualified in the 100 meters, in the final 100 meters nationals at 14. So I remained a sprinter. So I have to remember to slow down. And one of the things that just came into my orbit is another story. Actually, you and I are members of the 4PC community, which is a phenomenal community of high performance coaches. Sylvia has also been, with us, but we almost inspired each other to join that. So I joined the Project Kairos in 19, I think. And I remember you were just about to finish and you joined Adapter. And I said to you, Tatiana, this is a huge investment. I'm going to invest and I'm going to do it. And you said, oh my God, Alina, are you sure? Really? And I remember saying to Tatiana, don't put that responsibility on my shoulders. You want to do it, you do it. Don't say if it was because of me. And you did. We joined, and we had a great time, and we became members of that. And was it about 18 months later, we went to the pandemic, and we did a 4PC accelerator, and you put your hand up and said, I'm going to join 4PC. And I remember that sensation. It was a huge investment. And he was like, no way. This is how Tatiana must have felt when I made that decision. And because you did it, I sort of did it because of you almost. And, there's no turning back. It's probably been one of the best investments that we've had to be part of a great community. And that's how I've learned the power of the community, our own adapter community, actually.
Yes, and what those stories show, how scary it can be to invest in ourselves,
Totally.
right? So because, working in financial services, we bought sometimes expensive clothes, so we would take our families on holidays. And yet when we do something for ourselves, for our growth and development, it feels sometimes scarier, right? So because there is nothing, it feels more intangible. And actually what it also requires is a big commitment. So it's like commitment, and it's commitment to self, because it's not so much about this financial investment. It's like, actually, am I going to show up for that? And if we approached, and I like how Rich in this community says sometimes, who leads 4PC, who says, look, once you transfer the money, what if what if there is an accident and the coach is killed? And actually, because one is so committed,
Yes.
and it doesn't, it matters, of course, from the point of view of the impact on the family and stuff, but it doesn't matter from point of view of our journey, right?
Yes. And commitment is I care about commitment a little bit extra, I always joke. And it's on our website as well. How committed are you to your own success? Because if you are committed, and I think we still have 8 out of 10 now. I'm joking, saying you have to be 10 out of 10. But I'm aware we're going towards the end, Tatiana. I want to ask you, just for the future, what's the most audacious thing that you are looking forward to in the next 12 months?
So I love how we create things together, and in our own way. And so I'm also, as you know, working on my own book about embracing intensity and the path from toxic intensity to healthy intensity. And those are subjects connected, even though very different, with Audacity. So I am also launching conversations on intensity. So those are going to be on Tuesday, starting on the 9th of April, also at 4 p.m. And I'm only going to do them once a month. So on a second Tuesday every month. And we at Adapter about audacity, about intensity, about awareness, authenticity. And so, yes, it's great to be co-creating different things with you, Alina, together.
Thank you. And that's exciting. So your LinkedIn lives will be Tuesdays at 4, once a month. Mine, for me, I like the beginning and the end of any project. So I said this is a year project until December, and I'm going to do them every other week. So twice a month on a Monday at 4. Although this month it's a busier month, it's a special month. I've done it once a week with you, with Sylvia at the end of the month. So it's a special one for Adapter. And yes, I think for us, we are co-creating that sort of, I've just started this book called 10X is Easier Than the 2X. And, really dreaming big. We're doing our Audacious Leaders Retreat in May, but all of the programs that some of, community has been. And you are also launching and co-creating and creating this new program on intensity as well, exploring it.
Yes, exactly. It's about embracing intensity in a healthy way. So, because it's not about denying that what is there, it's actually seeing how to transform it into positive impact, into balance.
Fabulous. And actually, what I will, yeah, that sort of healthy intensity. Sorry, there is a lag, but really looking forward to to that, getting that program launched and really exploring it. And if anybody, in terms of our community who's here, please do subscribe to our newsletter, the Adapter newsletter, my own Audacious Leadership, the Authentic Leadership. I think your newsletter is coming out this month, Tatiana. So
Yes,
really
that's
looking
right.
forward to us. It comes once every month. And well, I think we are at time. Really looking forward. I think for me next week, I'll have Teresa, and the week after we'll have Sylvia on my LinkedIn lives, and really looking forward to those. And one audacious word to the audience from you, Tatiana.
The audacious word would be courage. Step into your courage and connect with us. If any of those topics that we discussed interest you, connect with us to have a conversation and to see maybe we can support your team.
Fabulous. Thank you. And thank you to everybody who's been with us today or will watch us or join us at a later stage. Thank you for being with us and being part of our community. Thank you. And thank you, Sylvia. Thank you, Cora.
Thank you, Alina.
Thank you.